Oh! How's everybody doing? I apologize for my lateness, Billy. How are you? Hey, hey, hey to you as well. Can y'all see me, hear me? Looks like it's just. Oh, there's another guy. Oh, okay, the party people. Hey, I apologize for my lateness. I just had a lesson with the student. It kind of went a little overboard. Love you too, Albert, Caleb, Jordan, Vape. Love to vape. All right, so instead of just watching me beat off as we usually do for the first half of the live stream, I think it would be more interesting if we just did a live Q&A. So if you have any questions for me, any techniques in Ableton that you would like to see, I would be happy to demonstrate those for you guys. So ask away, party people. Mappy, I recognize you. So yeah, if you have any techniques that you would like to uncover, anything about Ableton 10 that you're curious about, if there's a certain audio effect that you're not familiar with, we can talk about all that, party people. First question, Hampton Hawkeye, how do you create cool synths? Um, Fuck, man, that's a very hard question. I really don't know the answer to that. I don't know what cool means. Slugs, can you go over parallel compression? Sure thing, brother. So check it. Let's go over to our glue compressor. We're just gonna take a look at that real quick. And let's just put a simple ass drum loop. Sure, something like that would work. And you guys can hear all the computer audio just fine. Jordan, is there a way to use Ableton to make your parents love you? Yeah, you just do Christian rap. They love that. Okay, so check it. Here we have this drum loop. And right now, currently the glue compressor is not doing anything because the threshold is so high that it's just not registering the drum loop at all. Recall that compression, all that does is it just listens for when a certain sound goes above this threshold here and then turns that sound down. So the overall result is that we're reducing the difference in volume between the loudest parts of the sound and the quietest parts. So we're essentially squeezing the difference there so that overall the sound feels like it has a greater average loudness and it's just punchier and more present than it would be otherwise. So the cool thing about parallel compression is that, check this out. If we put the threshold really low, the compression will sound very extreme like this. It's just fucking crushing that shit. Sounds really punchy, but also kind of flat because all the dynamics have been kind of squashed by this overwhelming power of Curtis. So what is useful about parallel compression is that we can mix both the uncompressed signal and that super compressed signal by putting this dry wet knob at 50%. And that way we get the best of both worlds. We get the super flat, loud mix of the drums that have been compressed, so what you're hearing at 100%. And then we also get the punchiness and kind of the dynamicism of the original. So we're mixing the uncompressed and compressed signal together. Get the best of both worlds. So that's parallel compression. It's very awesome. I use it a lot. Shout out to Slugs for the question. Jeffrey, do I do music full time? Yeah, pretty much. Layering kicks the right way. Excellent question. So check it. Because the low end frequency range is so limited, it's only about, say, if we look at this EQ, low end is really only from about 30 hertz, so like 30 hertz right there to like 100, 120 hertz. That's basically the frequency range or spectrum for low end stuff, where your kick is coming in, where your bass is coming in. And then everything else goes from about 120 to like fucking 20,000 or some shit. So relative to the rest of the frequency range, low end is very limited. That's why we only really have room in the low end for one element at any given time. So if we take two kicks, let's find the fucking J-Rob, he's my man. Let's layer out that with this kick. Let's put them on the same little square there, C1, and we play them together. Sounds like ass, especially even if we turn it down so it's not clipping. Still kind of sounds not great. So what I do when I'm layering kicks is I always take out the low end of all of them except for one. So that really only one of the kicks has any low end happening. And the other kicks are simply used for kind of texture or maybe adding a little bit of clickiness. So for example, this kick has a lot of click. So instead of kind of making those low end frequencies clash with one another and essentially cancel each other out, we're just going to remove the low end here and just get that click and layer it with the other kicks. To be completely honest, I don't layer my kicks pretty much ever because of this issue. It's kind of problematic having to layer multiple kicks on top of one another and having to EQ everything out. So pretty much all my kicks, they're all ready to go, man. They all sound great from the get-go, so I don't have to do any of that layering bullshit. Snares, layering claps, snares, more high-end percussion is a lot easier because you don't have to do this trick where you have to carve out the low-end frequency space. So that's layering kicks, party people. Young Knock, what is the selling point of Ableton versus FL Studio? Fuck, man. I don't really have that much experience with FL. What I can tell you is that the warping algorithm in Ableton is pretty much unparalleled. Logic, FL, even Pro Tools don't even compare to the flexibility and power of Live's warping. It's really, really powerful. The other big selling point of Ableton over all the other DAWs is the name. It's live. So you can do everything live. You can perform your stuff live very, very easily, as I do with like the live loop and keyboard shit. All that's very hard to accomplish in a program like FL or Pro Tools. There's really no analogy to that. So I guess that would be the main selling points. Also, it looks fucking dope, and you can change the colors. Okay, you can change the colors. Where's the colors? Oh, look, feel. Here we go. Oh, bro. All right. All right, let's make it purple. Yeah, so that's the best part, just the colors. How do you distribute your tracks in the master EQ so it doesn't sound like ass? I guess I don't really know what that means. What do you mean by distribute? Can you briefly explain what the hell gain staging is? From my understanding, gain staging is kind of establishing what levels you want your main elements of the mix to be, so that the whole mix isn't too loud and you're not clipping. So for example, I would always have my kick when I'm gain staging, I was always have my kick peak around -6 and my snare peak around -6, so somewhere around there as well. And the way I can tell where my kick and snare are peaking is by hitting this number right here that says -infinity, and when I play a sound, it's going to tell me at what gain level that sound will peak at. So looks like my Orphan Chop snare is peaking at around -6.9, and my kicks are peaking around basically the same place. So I'm essentially gain staging those kicks and snares so that basically my mix doesn't get above that point. Usually the kick and snare are the loudest parts of your mix, so kind of staging them out so that they're peaking at around -6 is an easy way to make sure that your whole mix doesn't start approaching 0 dB or start to clip, because it's problematic, especially when you want to send it off to a mastering engineer. Usually those guys will request at least -3 to -6 dB of headroom on your mix. So that's kind of what gain staging is. I don't really use it that much. How is Live 10 so far? Fucking awesome, party people. Do you ever create your own synths in analog? No, not really. I used to a lot more. It's kind of, yeah, for all my synths, I pretty much use the Mini Moog original. How do I master old school tracks that include gritty old samples? Mastering is kind of a referential process. So if you want your master to sound gritty and old, yeah, embrace that. It doesn't have to sound like the cleanest Skrillex banger of our generation. It could be gritty and old and boom bappy. Um, how do I set up an Ableton recording clip to only record a clip for a set amount of time? I hate having to use my other hand to stop the clip. It kills the looping vibe. Caleb, what I do is I just create a bunch of empty blank clips and I say, okay, this clip I want it to be 4 bars. So I just title it 4 bar. This clip I want it to be, say, 2 bars. So essentially, I'm not creating a new clip every time I want a live loop. I'm essentially just overdubbing onto these empty clips. And the nice thing is that I've labeled them so I know exactly how long each clip is when I start overdubbing. So that's basically my workaround from that. I'm not sure if there's a better way. There might be, but it might also involve some scripting within Ableton, having to run a custom script. But yeah, basically overdubbing on blank clips. Cool. Jaden, hey Pappy, how did you get into music? Do I have any formal training? Yes, I started with classical piano when I was 7. My Russian parents made me do it for like, I don't know, fucking 15 years or some shit. I hated it a lot of the time, but it's been invaluable as a foundation for creating electronic music. I mean, being able to play piano, the keyboard, the theory that comes with that, it's very, very useful. And I'm glad they made me do it. I'm happy that I didn't quit. Um, let's see. What is your advice for people using presets and samples because their sound design isn't that good yet? It's a very good question, Justin. I think presets and samples are a great way to learn the arrangement process before being able to do the sound design stuff. So you basically take all the sound design, all that tedious shit out of the equation and just starting to create tracks and being creative from the get-go. I think there's nothing wrong with that. It does start to get problematic when you exclusively rely on other people's sound design and samples, and then as a result, everything kind of just sounds generic and unoriginal. But I guess that's the price you pay, right? So I think as a learning tool, they're excellent. But as an advanced, I mean, even I use fucking presets and samples a lot of the times. But I use it in combination with my own shit. So, yeah, hard to say. Why don't I do tutorials on sound design? It's a great question. There are a lot of great sound design tutorials out there, and I'm not enough of an expert on stuff like Serum or Massive. I'm not a huge synth guy, so I don't think I'm in a good enough position yet to be able to advise a lot of people on really extreme sound design, really extensive sound design, like a couple of these Serum guys on the internet. Seamless are a great sound designer. Yeah, I'm just not a huge sound design guy personally. Especially since it can get so technical so quick. I would rather help people with broader creative things. Why am I so beautiful? I don't know. Ask my mom, dude. Can I speak Russian? Not really. Any advice for making gritty old school beats? For example, Wu-Tang, etc. Use sample and swing. Study Jay Dilla, Pete Rock, RZA. Study all those people and you'll be good. Can you make some tutorials on soulful jazzy chords? I did. I have a tutorial on 7th chord. So the only chord you'll ever need to create any sort of genre ever. Will you check my beat or not? Why don't you submit it for the live roasting portion of the live stream, which should happen in like, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes of this Q&A, and then we can start to get into the roasting. Show us how to make acapellas? Fortunately, Golden Gates, there's no real clean way of making an acapella. I don't really know how to do it. Most of the time, when I want to remix a song, I usually just fucking take the original track if it's sparse enough and just EQ out the bass elements and kind of cover it up enough so that it feels like it's an acapella, but not really. All right. In the market for a new pair of studio headphones. Any recommendations? The headphones I use are the Ultrasone DJ1 Pro headphones. Pretty flat frequency response, very reliable. I love them a lot. Honestly, though, I recently got monitors, and I've been mixing in headphones for years prior to that. And fuck, man, monitors are fucking amazing. There's no replacement for actually moving air particles into your ear holes. Because headphones are so close to your ears, they can't properly reproduce frequencies that take, 5 or 10 feet to actually fully be able to be realized. So headphones, kind of, no matter how flat they say they are, they're always going to offer a skewed perception of the mix, unfortunately. So if you can, I would recommend just getting monitors, but if you're going to stick with headphones, Ultrasone makes a great pair. Do I use Redux to cut the sample rate, getting the sweet lo-fi effect? Yeah, Redux is great. Redux is great. Let's see. One piece of advice I wish someone told me when I started beating off. Lube. Get chafy after a while if you don't use lube. What's a good starter mic? I don't know. I think the Blue Note mics are pretty good. They're USB mics and they're pretty cheap. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. How do we submit to the live roasting? The live roasting happens every live stream. You just send your beats to djunderbelly@gmail.com and we can roast you. Any nitty-gritty details on mixing vocals? I've gone through all the tutorials and still sounding like garbage. One thing that I would recommend when mixing vocals is actually doing this thing called vocal writing. So let me see if I can find a vocal real quick. Vapors. So this is a track that me and a singer worked on that probably will never be released because, man, singers are really particular about how their vocals sound, and I just couldn't satisfy that boy. Let me just open this up real quick. Thoughts on FL. What is the best song I've produced in my opinion? Probably everything on my Shudder EP. That's what I'm most proud of. What's the best controller for Ableton? The new APC40, sorry. Looks pretty fucking dope for live performance stuff. I think FKJ uses that. I've personally never gotten a chance to use it, but I've seen videos and it looks very, very dope. How would I go about transforming a vocal sample into a dark, gritty monster transformer style sound style in Ableton? It's a great question. Huh? Where did all my samples go? I guess I deleted them. Fuck. Oh well. How would I go about? Simple question. How am I? I'm pretty good, man. Let's see. I have so many ideas, but I can't even make a beat. I can't just learn all the buttons and clicks and volumes, so I always nervously shut down the laptop after 10 minutes. That's sad, dude. Why don't you sign up for a private lesson with me and we can figure that out. Golden Gates, $2. Thank you so much, Golden Gates. So that should pretty much wrap up the Q&A portion of the live stream. Am I familiar with the Erase Tapes record label? I'm not. You should send me a link. Frequency masking. I don't really know what that means, Jack. Fortunately. Yeah. So, okay. Have you ever thought of or have been on tour? Yes, I have been on tour. Last time I toured was 2 years ago with a viral flute sensation by the name of Azim Ward. Me and him toured the UK for 10 weeks. Fucking best time of my life. I'm going to try to tour again this year. It's going to be incredible. Highly recommend touring. Can I get a shout out? Shout out to Will Four Vols. Tutorial of comedy. I don't know what your question was. Anyways, do I start with percussion or synths and why? It really depends on the beat. but I usually start with a loop, an 8-bar loop, before I move on to the arrangement. Okay, so Slugs, I'm gonna definitely hit you this time with the live stream. Golden Gates, I'm gonna definitely hit you since you contributed. Thank you so much. Slugs, you will definitely get hit on this live stream once my email opens up. Okay, Golden Gates, what is your producer name? Since I see Slugs from the get-go, I'm gonna open him up real quick, and then Golden Gates, you will be up next. So let me just search you real quick. Golden Gates. And then here we have Slugs Official with, looks like a Crane and Mern remix. Should be loading up momentarily. Golden Gates, where you at, brother? Golden Gates. Something's not right. All right, here we go. Jikwi. Shout out to Jikwi. All right, Slugs. We're about to get going. Alright, that was Slugs and Jikwi with their Monarch remix by Crane and Mern. Very good work, man. Super solid sound design. Mix is super clean. Personally, not a huge fan of this particular genre, but I think you accomplish all the stylistic tropes well. Nothing wrong with the arrangement. Yeah, excellent work. Thank you, Slugs, for sending that in. Here we have, I don't know really what's going on here. Dead in Miami. a 2018 type beat produced by Tolan Spring. All right, let's fucking check that shit out. Shout out to Tolan Spring for contributing. That really means a lot to me. Okay, here we go. Ooh, scary. Alright, that was a 2018 type beat produced by Tolan Spring. Solid work, Tolan. The drums in particular felt a little bit weak in the mix, especially if this is a triple X Tentacion type beat. So try maybe just turning up your kick and snare a little bit. And then at times it felt like there was more than one kick happening at once, and there was a bit of an overlap there, a little bit of a clashing frequency. Could also be the interaction between the kick and the 808. But other than that, very solid work. Shout out to Golden Gate, aka Tolan Spring. John Bless, buttery up. Oh, this is Just Dan again. Just Dan. Sorry, Tom. I'll have you next. Where'd you go? Butter. Where's the butter? Butter me up and call me toast. All right, you're gonna be next, John Blust. For now, we have Just Dan, aka Dangenberg, and here we have I Feel You. All right, Dan, let's hear it. Here we go. All right, that was Dan with I Feel You. Shout out Just Dan. Super solid ambient textural soundscapes. I really like the overall vibe of the track. Felt like the percussion felt, especially the kick, felt overly wide. It was like it was just coming from my right speaker sometimes or just from my left. I'm hearing this on monitors, so I can only imagine how wide it sounds like on headphones. I would urge you to try listening to your mix in mono, maybe seeing if there's some problems you can correct there. Um, the drums felt just a little bit maybe too muted at times. Maybe having punched through the mix a little bit more. And then overall, I understand that this is an ambient track, but it felt like the arrangement kind of dragged a little bit, especially towards the end. Maybe there's a couple of places where you can reduce the redundancies a little bit, or maybe even have the energy level come up a little bit more than it does towards the end. But overall, super solid vibe. I dig the track. I feel you too, Dan. Next up, we have John Blust with On Your Own. And then Crumbs, I'm going to try to get you. Where are you at, Crumbs? Where are you at? Crumbs, I'm not seeing you. What's your name? Let's see. Here we go with Augustus with On Your Own 1/2/2018. Pretty recent creation. That was Augustus with On Your Own. Fuck yeah, Augustus. So, a couple things I noticed. First off, your kick patterns are fucking crazy, man. Maybe kind of tone those down a little bit. That Rick Ross bit loud in the mix right before the drop. And then, speaking of this drop, you have this kind of melody going over the whole thing. And right now, it feels a little bit random. It feels like you're soloing over it rather than doing a focused melody line. It's up to you whether or not you want it to feel more like a solo or like a melodic idea. But if you want it to feel like a melodic idea, I would suggest kind of tightening it up a little bit and making it a little bit more loopy rather than kind of like you're soloing, beating off over the top. But overall, solid shit, man. Good work with Augustus on your own. All right, here we have Archer. Whoops. Let me get you Archer real quick. This is Archer with You Give Me Butterflies. Aw, Archer. Sweetheart. Okay, so let's check it.
Thanks, Poppy Archer.
I don't love you anymore.
Alright, that was Archer with You Give Me Butterflies. Very good work, Archer. Super awesome vibe. I love that switch up towards the end. I don't love you anymore. Did feel a little bit jarring getting that aggressive that quickly. So maybe after the I don't love you anymore, maybe just give us another bar or even a half bar of just silence or just kind of a little bit more time for us to get readjusted. Let the I don't love you anymore sink in, man. It takes time for that shit to sink in. And then you hit them with the fucked up bass and stuff. The other thing was that it felt like the drums were just a little bit clunky. Maybe take a little bit of the sub off the kick a little bit. And then considering adding a little bit more high-end percussion, so trap hats like a every eighth note or 16th note pattern, or maybe even just consider raising the BPM of the track up a couple dB. It just feels like at times the drumming just feels a little bit sluggish for some reason. But other than that, awesome sound design, awesome storytelling with the track. Give it up for Archer. Who else we got here? We have Kevin Hardesty with his track titled Down Tempo Groove with Eyes for Empties. Dude, That track cover art. Oh man, I'm fap to that later. All right. Oh wow, 6-second beat, dude. I love that. Oh my gosh, if all you guys could send 6-second beats, oh man, my job would be so much easier. All right, cool. Let's keep going. So I'm gonna pull up the next one with the track for stream Big Love Man with Caius Williams. This track is called Flight. Let's take a listen. All right, Caius, let's hear it. Alright, that was Flight with Caius. Yo, that was fucking sick, man. Really awesome drum work. I'm gonna like that. One thing I noticed that might be improved, and this could be an artistic thing, try making the melody synth a little bit more present, maybe using a little less reverb and just have it be more in the center, because it's a great melody. I recommend you check out this producer called Jeff Does, Jeftuz. It's a very similar sound, and his melody lines and synths are very, very present and in your face. And I think maybe you could study that. But other than that, very excellent work. Thank you for sending. Looks like we have just 5 more minutes. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get to the rest of the streams. Here we have Finn Winter. He's just starting off. This is Cold League, parentheses, rough mix. All right. I love the art. Let's hear it. right, that was Coldly by Ruttness. You know, super solid lo-fi, kind of old school hip hop, Wu Tang type feel. I don't really have too much to say about that. Um, yeah, solid instrumental. Nothing really I can tell you other than I guess just tightening up the arrangement if you do plan on leaving it as an instrumental. Thank you, Logan, for tipping a $5. I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. It'll get me caffeinated so I can roast more of your tracks. But unfortunately, I'm pretty much out of time, so I can't accept any new submissions at the moment. But thank you guys so much. Here we have Logan with Beat 2. So that was Logan. Yo, fucking sweet Teebs, fly low, beat scene type vibe. Only thing I noticed was that the felt like the bass wasn't always hitting the root notes of the chords. So just double check to make sure that it is actually hitting that root note of each chord. Just felt like it was occasionally out of key. I could just be wrong though. And then the last thing was that the vinyl static felt pretty obviously fake. So maybe just try finding a little bit more realistic vinyl static sound. Other than that, very solid work. Awesome. Thank you so much for tipping me. I'll buy a coffee. And then with Kevin, this is going to be our last one. Down Tempo Groove 1. We heard a 6-second version of it earlier. Let's dive into the whole thing. 403. All right. Oh, dude. That was I for Empties, down-tempo groove. What a trippy, strange wandering through the cosmic spheres, man. One thing I noticed was that the vocal that you use sounds like your friend sang into it or something. It's a dope vocal, but it just sounds a little bit dry. Feels like it's kind of in a world separate from the rest of the mix. So maybe add a little bit more reverb to kind of make it coalesce a little bit better with the rest of the track. And I know this is an ambient journey, but consider tightening up some of the more empty sections just to make the journey progress a little bit quicker than it is. And then one last thing, it did feel a little sparse in certain places, so try and listen closely to your arrangement and see if you can pick out any redundancies or areas where you could introduce a little bit more ear candy. But other than that, super dope astral projection type vibe. That was I for Empties. Fortunately, I have to go. I need a pee. And then Rachel, I will see you in a bit. Thank you guys for sending in your tracks, participating in the live stream. I really appreciate it. It warms my heart every single time you guys make it out. So thank you. If I didn't get to your track, I apologize. I'm sorry. Feel free to send it in next time. And also feel free to sign up for some private lessons with your boy so we can work on your tracks together. All you have to do is just hit the link in the live stream description. But thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. My name is Underbelly. See you next week, party people.